Hi, as Amelia was mentioning, I'm going to jump right in and introduce myself. So I'm a senior systems analyst and project manager at NexInfo. I do have 32 years of industry experience, with 25 of those years utilizing Oracle applications. I've implemented Oracle at 16 different companies of varying sizes, from large global corporations to small privately owned companies, both implementing on-premises and cloud in different versions, starting with 10.7, as well as a couple of upgrades. And I started out as an actual end user, so I know exactly where you guys are at. And by the way, I run a rescue, so if you hear any dogs barking, I apologize right up front. So now let me jump into introducing you to NexInfo and giving you a little background there. NexInfo is a consulting company for both small and large companies across a diverse range of industries. We're a global company supporting services across the US and Europe, and we continue to grow. We were established in 1999, so we have 23 years of industry experience with a multitude of applications, mainly Oracle, and then a wealth of experience with software consulting services. So we provide a wide range of services. Examples of that would be business process design, software implementation, SaaS solutions, and business analytics. So our domain expertise is across all Oracle products. We're also a Oracle partner, obviously, and have partnerships with several other organizations. So NexInfo has been recognized by many firms, and most recently featured in Yahoo Finance. So for today, the agenda, we're going to introduce you to the topic or give you a little bit of what you're supposed to get out of this. Then we'll go to a comparison for on-premise and cloud. And then we're going to go into the cloud project adoption, some of the out-of-the-box feature differences. Then we'll conclude, and then of course, as mentioned, it's going to have a few minutes for any questions and answers that you may have. So the introduction. So what can you expect out of this session? I'm going to try to present some of the critical differences between the on-premise and cloud implementations, so that hopefully you can gain a better understanding of the differences between implementing, managing, and leveraging while easing your users into the necessary changes to adopt the Oracle Cloud application. This by no means is a full list. This is pretty high level. So we'll discuss some of the key differences, some of the methodology differences, and then provide some of the power that's provided from cloud. So for any project success, it's a culmination of building an award-winning partnership. And it requires a team effort from the client, the implementation partner, and of course, Oracle. So each company has to play its role, and it's got to be proactively and collaboratively in order to make any project successful. It doesn't matter if it's Oracle or anything else. When I do a kickoff presentation for new clients, I typically utilize an analogy for where projects are like family. You're going to discuss, you're going to have disagreements, you're going to have heated discussions, but we have to work together to work through any challenges for achieving a successful go live together, and together only will we succeed. If there's anyone that's not in alignment, the project could fail. So now we're going to go into the on-cloud versus on-premise differences. And right out of the gate, you can see that there's a huge difference where Oracle on-premise applications are delivered from servers and databases that are typically hosted on-site by local networks at each of the customer and client locations. So because I work because I work as an implementation partner throughout this presentation, you'll hear me refer to client and customer interchangeably, which just means anyone implementing Oracle. So Oracle Cloud applications are delivered from Oracle's cloud infrastructure and accessible through the internet. So that is a huge difference. And because the cloud on the Oracle infrastructure is through the internet, this eliminates some of your hardware requirements and provides some significant benefits. And some of these benefits will be touched on later in the presentation. So what are some of the project startup differences? So at the start of a cloud project, some of the differences are not having to purchase hardware in support of the Oracle applications. So for a on-premise implementation, you had to acquire a server for hosting the Oracle applications in support of your company. The Oracle applications acquisition is also a little different. So in the sense that on-premise was more individual license driven, and cloud is more subscription that allows for a pool of users or a specific number of transactions based on whatever module it is that you're acquiring to meet your company's specific size requirements. So an example of that would be a financial pool or requisition transactions for self-service procurement. Sorry, I skipped. I apologize. So cloud does not require installation either of the application, and then applying patches to bring that environment up to the latest levels. On-premise, you would have to install the Oracle application and then install patches applied to resolve any of the issues for that specific version, since releases could be months or even a year between each of the different versions. Cloud's ready for transactions as soon as the provisioning is completed and the company admin receives a welcome email. With most of the up-to-date versions, typically only being about a quarter behind most of the latest information, latest and greatest patches and releases. So the cloud configurations can be limited to key details that allows you to immediately execute transactions in the cloud versus on-premise, the majority of those configurations were required. You couldn't transact until all the configurations were completed. Cloud is more of the configurations are pre-built industry standards, so values are ready out of the box. So then you can sit there and take those configurations and just refine them to your specifics. And transactions executed as soon as a user is defined from day one. So an example of this would be journal sources or payment terms. They're typically industry standard values. For an example, journals would be manual and a payment term could be net 30. So now we'll go to operational differences. And on-premise, it means you have complete control and privacy for your company data. But typically an on-premise project is a single server, since redundancy is cost prohibitive. And this opened the organization up to a single point of failure, ransomware, and then the potential for a loss of data. Cloud provides the redundancy by operating backup servers and multi-channel connectivity that allows for the availability even if the underlying hardware fails, and eliminating that single point of failure. So on-premise companies are responsible for maintaining and monitoring performance, security, and sizing. Cloud provides some of the performance, security, and sizing, as well as some of the compliance requirements monitoring, with some dashboard reports and analyzing to take the appropriate course of action out of the box, which includes just reaching out to Oracle to help with those activities. So security for on-premise requires stringent internal security policies and procedures with limited authorized individuals within the organization. And then the internal security policies typically included frequent and secure backups, which could have required offsite storage locations, and then robust disaster recovery plans with possible VPN connectivity requirements for the remote workers, and then that added additional security risks. whereas cloud has taken some of the security and integrated that highest standard with cutting edge infrastructures and network securities, performing frequent backups for you, and then the upgrades as part of the cloud subscription. So it keeps your application at the latest release level while allowing users access through the internet and mobile apps, achieving that remote access with ease and maintaining the necessary security on the latest and greatest release. So most organizations have business requirements and regulations imposed due to SOX, FDA, HIPAA, whatever your specifics may be. So on-premise places the responsibility solely on the organization to adhere to those compliance rules and regulations that are enforced and then reviewed by auditors. Cloud incorporates some of the best business compliance rules and regulations directly in the standard application, and as a result bears some of those responsibilities for the compliance requirements imposed by whatever rules and regulations your company follows. So cloud provides better out-of-the-box processing with better integrations that allow for eliminating those system silos created due to the lack of integrations available. A couple of those examples would be payroll and shipping details. So cloud has built-in standard integration functionality that can be leveraged to ease those integrations and eliminate some of the lack of visibility, as well as eliminating some complex programming in order to provide some of the connectivity, the integration connectivity. This also provides better reporting abilities due to more information being readily available. So cloud has more robust reporting and dashboard analytics out of the box that doesn't require the difficult programming to create the additional reports and analytics requirements. Versus on-premise, there was more rigidity for configurations, which made it more difficult to change procedures and configurations. Cloud has a standard business process that has been built, utilized, and leveraged by numerous other companies. So implementation experiences, lessons learned, and continuous improvements are seamlessly incorporated based on those company experiences. So since the configurations in cloud are more industry standard, defining new values and conducting what-if scenarios, utilizing different values or setups is easier due to better flexibility and availability. This also allows for business-specific modeling while adopting and leveraging the standard cloud functionality. So that kind of transitions us into the cloud project adoption. So now that we presented some of the key differences between on-premise and cloud hardware and application maintenance, we'll talk about some of the implementation methodologies. So how does the cloud implementation phases help a user adopt Oracle standard business processes in cloud versus on-premise? So we leverage the NCAM methodology, which is the NexInfo Cloud Adoption Model. And Oracle Cloud provides best business practices to be leveraged for quicker visualization in a project lifecycle, providing a more rapid return of investment and fewer project management efforts. So the implementation is solution driven based on Oracle Cloud applications, standard processing, and incorporating best business practices by asking key setup questions to secure the crucial specific configurations gathered during what we call the design workshops. So design workshops are where we review standardized questionnaire responses to gain those critical specific configurations from clients in order to complete a prototype instance. So an example from a specific client-specific critical configuration would be the chart of accounts structure or maybe approval hierarchies. So once we've secured those crucial details, then we set up a prototype instance and we go into the design confirmation where we utilize the prototype instance to demonstrate customer key setup configuration responses and sample data that we've gathered during the discovery workshops for that early visualization in Oracle Cloud applications with the standard processing. And then utilizing those customer specific details aids in the ease of comprehension and the validation, and then adopting while submerging the customer in more standard processes that's inherent to Oracle. As we progress through the implementation, refining customer specifics, the cloud allows for a more rapid incorporation of customer feedback so that by the end-to-end testing phase, the goal of a cloud project is to be functioning in support of a minimum of 80% of the customer's business procedures utilizing the cloud standard application processes. So an example of changes could be like a chart of accounts values or defining some rules to limit the account code combination strengths. With the early visualization and the quicker testing, this allows for the ease of change management to incorporate necessary changes. And that's due to customers having a better grasp for making educated decisions in support of business procedures while leveraging the out-of-the-box functionality within cloud application. So by incorporating the changes throughout the implementation, UAT is more of a mirror image of production that allows for a smoother transition for customers to have quicker training abilities for all the other users, the end users. And then once you go live, of course, monitoring the cloud performance and compliance and adoption to be able to make those refinements and optimize performance and utilization across the company. So now the question is, how does this differ from on-premise? So typically, extensive time was spent for implementers to gather legacy business process details and then try to mirror and map those current legacy business processes in the application, which at times would create extensive customizations that would have to be maintained after each patch or upgrade. So by leveraging the Oracle Cloud standards and best business practice procedures with the customer specifics and sample data, that allows for a solution-driven system versus a requirements-driven system. So requirements-driven is expecting a software to change to match the business procedure versus adopting and leveraging the applications out of the box functionality. So there is a different way that should be a company-wide initiative communicated when implementing Oracle Cloud. And some of you may have heard of this. So the different way of thinking is leveraging the Moscow rule. And it is beneficial in the Oracle Cloud project to set the company expectations by applying this Moscow rule. So if you don't know what the Moscow rule is, it's the must-haves, the should-haves, the could-haves, and the would-haves. So the company needs to agree on what those Moscow rules are in order to apply and leverage the out-of-the-box Oracle Cloud applications by defining, setting, and agreeing on some realistic goals and boundaries. So an example of a realistic goal and boundary would be general ledger, being able to create, post, reconcile journals, or maybe in purchasing, being able to create a requisition, request for quote, and a purchase order, and then ultimately match it against an accounts payable invoice, as well as being able to drill down to see all of those details. So that would be a high-level business process as a must-have expectation setting. Then you identify any pain points for possible solutions or the next metamorphosis in the implementation. So pain points could be addressed within the standard Oracle functionality, or require a deeper dive into details of those requirements to identify a workable solution within the standard functionality. So again, an example could be cross-validation rules. Defining those account code combinations to provide the necessary limitations to the subsystems transactions, such as purchasing or accounts payable again. And this requirement might potentially be a should have, but requires additional project time for designing those cross-validation rules and then configuring them, validating to make sure they're functioning correctly, and then ultimately implementing them. So during a cloud implementation, we recommend that you stick to the must-haves and the should-haves, because we find that once you are operating in a cloud environment, some of those could-haves and would-haves are no longer required after understanding the out-of-the-box functionality. So by identifying the budget and the timeline, some of the low-cost could-have tweaks that might be incorporated in time or pushed to the next project phase, eliminating or delaying those would-haves to be able to achieve an on-time and on-budget project. So delaying also allows the users time to work with the application as it's delivered, which provides a better understanding to determine the best course of action. This could be things that the business users state, this is how they've always done something, versus accepting out-of-the-box process in Oracle. So this would require that businesses take a hard look when they're implementing Oracle Cloud to have some change champions and be open to accepting the new procedures and processes. Be a little flexible to the adjustments in order to adopt Oracle standard business processing during a cloud project. And this by no means that the business transactions are not functioning, but defining a livable matrix, for example, the procedures are met by 80%. So previously I mentioned 80% in end-to-end. So we want to meet 80% of those critical requirements and business processes in order to adopt the Oracle standard best business practice that leverages standard Oracle processing, so that procedures could be a little bit different in cloud. And the best analogy that would be when you purchase a new cell phone. So you do not expect that new cell phone to function exactly the same as the previous phone. There will be differences. It doesn't mean that it doesn't meet your requirements. You have to adopt and learn. Similar expectations can and should be set when implementing Oracle Cloud. And again, we find that once users start utilizing Oracle out of the box functionality, before they try to make modifications in that functionality, it helps to eliminate some of the customization requirements. So that brings us to scope creep. So utilizing the NCAM and Moscow methodology, it'll help to avoid some of that scope creep, not just due to customizations, but can be caused by unclear project scope or poor project management, lack of proper communication between all the project members, inconsistency in managing changes, and not setting those clear expectations for the implementation. So the project scope should be defined to adopt the Oracle Cloud Best Business Procedure that leverages out-of-the-box applications, or identify possibly a workable workaround, as well as maybe ultimately re-engineering company procedures in order to avoid possible customizations. Scope creep in the form of customizations by adding features and functionality not inherent to Oracle adds time, cost, and resources, as well as ongoing costs due to constant management required to continue the utilization of any customization throughout that customization's life cycle, and that's due to the one-off nature because Oracle doesn't know about that customization. So cloud provides standard templates, integrations, reporting, and dashboards for that early visualization to avoid unclear project scope comprehension, and helps to avoid the miscommunication between project members, especially when leveraging the NCAM and Moscow rules to ensure that the business implementation practices that help to drive those customer responses to avoid that scope creep by comprehending and adopting the out-of-the-box functionality, then visualizing almost immediately. So in support of cloud projects, we utilize a Strive methodology that was developed by NexInfo to standardize, transform, redesign, and for information visibility and excellence. So what does that mean? We leverage standard templates and procedures to engage the customers with standard templatized documents to drive specific responses to identify those critical key setups and sample data. This allows us to set up that prototype that I was discussing in the beginning to be set up and defined so that we can walk the customer through standard Oracle functionality with customer specific details. This allows for a quicker visualization that provides the customer a more educated grasp of the standard Oracle functionality and how their business processes and details would look, feel, and function in the future state of cloud. So this also brings us back to the Moscow rule. So something that the business thought was a must-have might require a minor configuration tweak or possibly a business re-engineering to adopt the standard Oracle processing, thereby avoiding that C word, so customization, which avoiding customizations is always recommended and best business practice for any application. So customization brings us into change management. And as we've discussed several methodologies that help to avoid those customizations by utilizing predefined procedures and templates and proven processes, but the biggest asset and requirement is the business subject matter experts. So business subject matter experts are a key resource for each of the business processes who are involved from the inception of a project to the completion. So subject matter experts provide those key configuration details during the discovery workshops. So they represent each of the business areas and the visualization of the company's specific details, utilizing that out-of-the-box Oracle Cloud procedures during the design confirmations, prototype sessions. So we step those subject matter experts through all of the business procedures with company-specific details. But we do need those subject matter experts to be forward-thinking individuals so that they have an open mind, they can think outside the box and not just accept the status quo. And we call them their change champions. So change champions identify the change impact, and then they determine the best course of action to support the business efficiently and meet those requirements while accepting the new procedures that would be visualized during those design confirmation sessions to determine how to adopt the company policies and procedures and embrace the necessary change, and then help to compel the company-wide adoption, training, and coaching requirements to maintain business transactions. So changes could or should be modifications necessary to stay within the boundaries of Oracle applications while continuing to meet the business requirements. But in order to ensure that we meet those business requirements, communication should be developed and delivered throughout the implementation phases. And the communication is delivered to all employees as well as external sources. that could be impacted by any of these changes at go live from the Oracle Cloud project. So the change champions need to stay engaged throughout the implementation and understand that adopting the out-of-the-box process will maintain the best business practices utilizing Oracle Cloud while providing the necessary coaching and training and communication to ease those impacts of the new system and then achieve an on-time and on-budget project that avoids costly customizations. So an example of changes in communication to all employees and external sources could be the financials report. Look and feel could be a little different as a result of the new system. So upper management or maybe a board, anyone utilizing those reports would need to be advised before the change is implemented and how the change is to ensure a smoother transition. So for all of this, a good quote from Benjamin Franklin is that the process is tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, and then involve me and I learn. So with the learning, we want to focus. So everything that we've been talking about so far is driving the focus to stay within the confines of out-of-the-box Oracle Cloud functionality by stepping the designated subject matter experts, the change champions, and any approvers of the business procedures through the design confirmation phase with the crucial configuration details that were gathered and utilized to configure an Oracle prototype instance in order to provide that first visualization and training session. Then utilizing the real company crucial key details and the sample data to execute those standard Oracle business processes directly in the application. And this provides the better impact for early visualization, providing a better comprehension. So the visualization directly in cloud provides the Oracle best business practice and processes for adopting instead of having hypothetical discussions about legacy practices that can lead to extensive customizations. Executing an Oracle Cloud application allows the business and implementation partner to discuss the standard business processes with company-specific details. Then the business can work with the implementation partner for how to refine either the configurations, the data, or possibly a business procedure while still meeting the organization's requirements and avoiding costly project delays and or customizations. So this provides an iterative process for project users to execute business procedures directly in cloud versus in on-premises where typically it's extensive discussions identifying legacy business processes that the implementation partner then tried to map to the application and a big bang at the end of at the first end-to-end test cycle. And typically with that first test cycle, that was the first time that users actually were able to see the functionality, and they were typically disappointed due to partners not completely understanding the legacy communicated information, just project scope creep, there a litany of different things. So on-premise was extensive requirements gathering, and then you would configure the instance, any development required, and then the consultants would test that information, validating it, and then eventually the subject matter experts were executing. But this was all based on hypothetical discussions. And this left the business users out of the configuration and development phases to refine and validate requirements driven based on hypothetical legacy business practice discussions that took place due to not having an instance to leverage until the instance was completely scoped, configured, and developed. With all the integrations and potentially customizations before users could see execution in the application. So if you remember earlier, I provided an example of purchasing a new cell phone. When you purchase a phone, you adopt that new phone's procedures. The same philosophy applies to cloud. So you transfer the crucial data, execute transactions, and then discuss refining details for meeting those business requirements. So in training, cloud is a little bit different where we can submerge the project team into the terms and the processes immediately, providing that interactive training and development processes where both the customer and the implementation partner grow throughout the project, allowing both to come to a mutual business procedure for the success of the project. So standard documents, including test scripts, are available and leveraged to refine the step-by-step testing and training for each of the specific modules and business procedures. So test scripts can be revised to meet specific customer details and requirements to allow the stakeholders validation of the system and data and the business procedures in a end-to-end testing versus typically it was building test scripts based on legacy procedures and then attempting to execute to confirm those test scripts and start building training documentation after the first testing cycle. So the standard test scripts are defined with the Oracle out-of-the-box procedures for customers to execute and refine, as well as leverage those standard test scripts for validation purposes in support of go live. Even some of the companies have adopted the standard test scripts and developed them to become their company-specific training documents. So by the UAT, you're executing and the subject matter expert has gone through several different iterations and they're now the trainer. So they can start executing training to all of the other business users, thereby submerging all the business users prior to go live. Once that system is live, it's a smoother transition with fewer issues experienced on cloud, and the issues were identified and addressed throughout the course of the project phases by having those subject matter experts execute the company-specific details in every stage, with the subject matter expert driving those procedures and specifics. Versus the on-premises was typically a big bang testing and training after the companies were live, and the application caused delays in those processes of the transactions due to the learning curve. Cloud allowed the subject matter experts, or cloud does allow the subject matter experts to be the trainers and have all the business users execute test transactions during training sessions on a test instance, with the added benefits of the subject matter expert being able to relate and communicate company specifics of how it was and how it is working now. So you avoid some of the costly mistakes due to misunderstandings or misscope requirements, or the lack of the business user involvement or missed business scenarios. This also drives the better business scenarios to be documented and executed by having each business process subject matter expert representative involved from the inception to go live and grow through the implementation of the cloud, so that the users can be trained by a train-the-trainer approach, and the what-ifs can be tried prior to the production transactions, which allows the production to stay cleaner and with fewer go live issues, has been our experience. So now let's take a look at some of the out-of-the-box Oracle Cloud functionality. So Oracle Cloud implementation can still be a daunting and intimidating of all the unknown. However, Oracle Cloud's ecosystem is a holistic solution based on best business practices that have been implemented and leveraged to develop additional functionality for continuous growth and improvement to the benefit of the customers. So Oracle Cloud implementations are solution-driven while incorporating the necessary integrations and data, the metrics to provide key performance indicators, thereby eliminating the need to develop custom integrations and metrics required to support standard business requirements. So as a result, the holistic cloud solution diminishes the on-premise integrations with more of the out-of-the-box capabilities and cuts the project management requirements caused by those customizations, because customizations require the development, the testing, and migration, typically as a result of legacy requirements-driven solutions. So the holistic modules and integrations are expansive, and most of the business processes that are crucial to the success of most company industries are covered and growing every year. Sorry, excuse me. So now for integrations, the Oracle Cloud Software as a Service provides the seamless business continuity for industries across the board, allowing business processes to move from one stage of the business process to the next, while linking the data as the transaction progresses to allow the investigation at any point in the process, and then drill down ability in order to provide the origin of any transaction, while maintaining compliance for audit details and security. So an example would be tracking from requisition all the way to GL. So standard integration points allow for more rapid adoption and ease of implementation because users are more familiar with the GUI style version, the on-premise DOS forms format that didn't provide the hyperlink capabilities to drill to the original transaction, especially when generating the integration modules. So again, utilizing the requisition to GL. From GL, you could select hyperlinks to get all the way back to the original requisition that drove that GL transaction in cloud. On-premise typically required more customization built integrations and reports to achieve that same level of drill down, visibility, integration, compliance, security, and audit details. So, which added to the implementation time, the budget, and project management requirements. So some of the out-of-the-box functionality, it lends itself to a more GUI look and feel, and these are just examples that the users are used to from like the internet versus the DOS block style versions. So cloud has increased and improved the out-of-the-box analytics while providing standard dashboard inquiries that allows for hyperlink interactions, providing that quicker, better, and various numerous variations so that you can consolidate, calculate, collate, generate, export, manipulate for what if scenarios, and then review the data for more confidence because of the ease of getting to the base of those transactions. So if you didn't get it, it's a little bit more flexible. There's a lot more flexibility. So it also allows for easier modifications to the standard reports and dashboards out of the box to tailor it to more customer-specific requirements without having to have complex programming happening. So again, that cuts the time to implementation, putting more power directly into business users' hands, and in turn making companies more efficient while cutting the program management necessary to support. Because if you remember correctly, for creating those custom reports or any information that you're building with the complex programming, you have to identify that requirement, you have to scope it, document it, test it, validate it, and then ultimately go live with that. So I know this has been long. In conclusion, how does managing cloud differ from on-premise? So We listened to the fact that there's differences in the hardware. You don't have the hardware requirements. There's a holistic out-of-the-box solution for best business practice to be able to be implemented. And with the holistic business procedures defined in cloud and standard documentation available, cloud eliminates some of that legacy documentation and mapping requirements that took hypothetical discussions between business implementation partners by leveraging the Oracle standard business practices and procedures and the documentation for the quicker comprehension and more in-depth visualization at the inception of the project, and thereby avoiding the misunderstanding and miscommunication that sometimes occurred. Training is an iterative process that helps for better collaboration during the implementation, and then the validation in support of business procedures as a result of better adoption and support of go live with less errors. So all of these points allow for a shorter project timeline and easing the project management process by leveraging the standard best business practices to drive that project scope, cutting the project management efforts, eliminating the hypothetical requirements gathering between the implementation partner and the business users, incorporating documenting changes throughout the project, and eliminating change inconsistencies while leveraging the Moscow rule to avoid legacy-driven expectations that typically resulted in costly company-specific customizations. So next steps. As a thank you for attending the webinar with me today, NexInfo would like to offer all webinar attendees that are still an on-premise customer either a complimentary 2 to 3 day assessment on how cloud can reduce your efforts at your organization, or a tailored demo to be able to see how cloud can help your organization. So please feel free to reach out to NexInfo and complete that by October 14th. And I have done a lot of talking, and I know this is high level, so I hope that this helps some of you. And now if there are any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dawn. That was incredible. And yes, we do have quite a few questions in the chat here. So I'll go ahead and number them off and post them in the chat for everyone to see. The first one, Oracle Projects has sensitive financial data on record. How does the cloud version ensure client confidentiality and security for their sensitive financial data?
So Raul, are you there? Can you take that for me? Sorry, I was trying to get a drink. So that is the redundancy, and they also have hybrid solutions as well. And I apologize, but I'm not a financials person, so I'm not 100% sure how to answer that. I could potentially get back to whoever sent that question. I apologize.
All right, no problem. The next question, how we manage customization similar to on-prem old implementations.
How you manage customization similar to on-prem. So I'm not clear on that question. Are they asking with regard to interface, reports? I mean, reports, they have the OTBI and BI functionality. Integration is they have more standard out-of-the-box integrations. So I'm not clear in what that question is trying to get at.
Sure, sometimes that happens, and I'll be on the lookout to see if that attendee ends up sending a follow-up to clarify for us. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and post the next question. For the requirements and discovery project phases of traditional on-prem versus cloud implementations, what is the representative timeline differential? And then their follow-up is, are these generally still the same timeline, or does the standardization of cloud solutions expedite these phases?
So I would say that cloud expedites these phases, and cloud cuts the implementation time exponentially. I mean, we have been able to implement a full financials implementation in as short as 6 months versus a on-prem was typically a year implementation phase.
All right, thank you. Question 4 coming up. Regarding training, what is the best practice for who owns training delivery, the business or IT? Has this best practice changed from on-prem to cloud, and if so, how?
Okay, so, and this is just a personal opinion. In my opinion, I mean, you need to have your business users executing training. And the reason why is because you might be able to have IT learn your business processes, but if you think about it, your business users are your best source because they know the intricate details of what happens for each of those transactions, right? IT may be able to learn the high level, you may be able to document the high level, but you need to have an expert trainer for each area. And that's just a personal opinion.
Thank you. And our next question, what is a typical duration for an Oracle Fusion project with about 500 users for a mid-sized company, including finance and SEM applications?
So typically for the financials and the SEM, I have seen it where we can get it done in less than a year, down to about 8 to 10 months.
All right, thank you. And from your earlier response, Dawn, someone did say, agreed, the business is the best for training. And then we had someone else post, key points have been highlighted well. So thank you, audience, for your comments. We appreciate those. I do not see any other questions at this time, but before we close out today from our session, Dawn, is there anything else you wanted to share?
No, I hope everybody got something out of this because I was a OATUG member myself, and sometimes these things were way too high level.
Yes, that is some feedback that we often see in the report. Yes, so to do a deeper dive, it's definitely a good idea. But no, this was awesome, Dawn. Thank you so much for this. And thank you to everyone for coming out today. We'll be posting this into the knowledge base, the recording, and the slide deck. And please stay on to take that survey. We'd really appreciate that. That does conclude today's session. Everyone have a great rest of your day.